as propagate this light would say, rock steady.
You're now in tune with near-death experiencer, Wendy Rose Williams.
Well, hello. I'm happy to be here and get to share my near-death experience with you. Thanks for having me. And what happened was in August of 1997, I was newly pregnant. I'd been for one visit with the OBGYN. Everything was looking great. And my husband and I were very excited that we were going to be welcoming our second child because we'd had years of infertility and also two ectopic pregnancies. And we did also have a toddler. So we're very, very excited for that pregnancy. But I was noticing some things that just seemed off to me. I was 10 weeks pregnant and was kept having this precognitive dream, but I didn't know what precognitive dreams were. I didn't know you could be having something come up that was your subconscious, your unconscious, however you want to interpret that, your guides, God, trying to help you and let you know that there was an issue going on. And for me, it was going to be a very serious issue. So I kept having this dream, and it was the same dream almost every night, very intense, vivid. And I would see this ship out at sea, and it was a large sailing vessel, and the winches would tear off, the cleats would tear off, the mast would break in two, and the ship would always go down. So it doesn't take a master dream interpreter to tell you, Wendy, your ship's about to go down. But I just didn't know what to make of it. And I was working at home on the day of the first near-death experience. So I'm home alone, and my husband was at work. He had one car, and our nanny was at the park with our toddler, who was about 18 months old at the time. So she had our other car, and I just could not get comfortable. Just it just Things just didn't feel right. So I would try and lie down. I would take some more Mylanta, and finally I just ran into the bathroom because I didn't know what to think other than I was going to be sick, because I had this incredible strong sense of impending doom, which I have never felt before or since. And when I went into the bathroom, when I ran in there, I looked down in surprise because there was so much pain in my abdomen. I literally felt like someone had stuck a knife in me, and it felt like something tore wide open. And all I could think of was, oh my gosh, an organ just burst. I'm going down. So I remember crying out for help, crying out to the angels, crying out to God, just knowing I was home alone. And I came to only because there was this insistent male voice that kept saying to me, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up. You've got to call for help now, or you're going to go home. And so I was disoriented. I was lying on my side on the bathroom floor. And I looked up, and to my astonishment, my bathroom was filled with angels. And it's like my brain couldn't catch up fast enough because everything was happening so quickly. And before that time, I had I had hoped that angels were real, but I'd never had an encounter like this. It just took it out of the theoretical. And it just was so vivid and so real because there was so much light coming off these amazing beings, and you could just feel the love just pouring and radiating from them, and you could just feel the wisdom. And they were large. They were, I'd say, like 8 or 9 feet tall. So the bathroom was very crowded to have 4 or 5 of these amazing angels in there with me. And the one male angel spoke again and said, "Wendy, you've got to call for help now." And my reply to him was, "I understand, but I don't think I can walk. I don't know how to get to the phone." Because again, this was 1997, before we all had a cell phone glued to our hand or glued in our back pocket. So I had to actually get to a landline. And his response was, "You just have to be willing to try." And I think that was so important in hindsight on multiple levels. I think what he was referring to was free will. And no one can do our work for us. No one can save us. No one is meant to live our life for us. So it was just really important that I be willing to try. So I struggled to get up on my hands and knees. And at that point, again, my mind was just blown because it was just like being gently lifted or flown the short distance from the bathroom into the attached master bedroom, where I could grab the phone off the nightstand and call for help. So I did have a brief second. I thought, "Oh gosh, who do I call?" The angel just said, "Call for help." So I decided to call my husband at work because he worked super close to home. He was 5 minutes away, and miracles continued. I have never reached him at work before or since on, on the immediate first call. And I give him a lot of credit because all I said to him was, "I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me to the hospital now?" And all he said was, "On my way." And I heard him throw the phone down. So at that point, I called the OBGYN office. I described to them what's happening. And they said, "That's perfect. Your husband's on his way because he can get you here more quickly than 911 can at this point. So what we want you to do when you get here to our office," and the OB office was located right at the hospital, which I think was also very, very important for me. "And we don't want you to walk, so don't park the car, just pull up at the circle, and we're gonna meet you curbside with a wheelchair because we don't want you walking." So that's exactly what happened. So I'm at the hospital and getting whisked up into the doctor's office, in for an ultrasound within 15 minutes of making that call. So we're in the little ultrasound room, the ultrasonographer's just adjusting the machine, trying to play with the machine, trying to get something on the screen. And I'm looking at the screen in puzzlement because all I can see is black. And I don't understand. And I did say to her, "Is your machine working? What's going on? Why can't we see anything?" And her reply was, "I'm going to get the doctor. I'll be right back." So I looked at my husband and we're both like, "Oh, this is not good. We don't understand what's happening." I was in so much pain. I'm just like doubled over, laying on my side, just clutching my middle. And I can see that my abdomen is just distending more and more and more. Because 10 weeks pregnant, you don't look pregnant. The fetus, the baby is just such a tiny, tiny peanut at that point. But I can see my abdomen is visibly distending. And the doctor comes in, he tries to adjust the machine. He realizes what's happening and just tells me as gently as he can, "Wendy, you've got a major abdominal bleed going on. We don't know where it's coming from, but that's why your abdomen's distending like this. And that's why we can't see anything on the screen. What we're actually seeing is blood loss. We're just seeing blood everywhere. That's what all that black is. So we need to admit you to the hospital right now." So someone ran and got a stretcher. They didn't even want to use the wheelchair at that point, and took me over via stretcher directly into one of the rooms in the hospital in the GYN floor. And I noticed they put me right next to the nurse's station. And having worked in healthcare for most of my career, I knew this meant they were concerned about me. And I appreciated that everyone was just so on it. And I appreciated that I was getting such quick medical attention. So the nurse is calling for blood. I lived in the Seattle area, and the Puget Sound Blood Bank services multiple hospitals so that you're not wasting this precious resource. So she's calling and trying to get blood for me. They'd asked me if I knew my blood type. I said, of course, it's A negative. I think everyone should know their blood type. I think that's really important. And you can get a free in case of emergency app and just put it on your phone and just enter in blood type, any drug allergies, any other important information about you. I've even got included in there, and then 911 or any sort of responder, they can get to that information on your phone without knowing your phone's password. Because if you're not able to talk, or you're not thinking clearly, you've been in an accident, you're having some sort of medical emergency, it is great to just have that information there for those first responders. I've even got in there, how do you feed my dog? That there's a dog at home, because if you live alone, there might be something you want to convey about your home situation, in case you're not able to take care of things for yourself. So in case of emergency is what those phone apps are called. So they'd asked me my blood type. They're trying to get blood for me, and they cannot get blood, to my shock. So they come back on into the room. The doctor's still there with me. There's another nurse there with me, in addition to my husband, as well as the nurse who'd been out trying to get the blood. And what she tells us is she discovered that there had been a major train collision in the Seattle area 2 or 3 days before I was having this medical emergency. So they didn't have any A negative blood for me at that moment. So we're discussing with the doctor, what are we going to do? Are we going to go straight into surgery? But we, don't know where this blood loss is coming from. And I'm pregnant, and we don't have any blood on hand for me. I can't answer. I don't know why they didn't decide to use a universal blood donor at that point, but for whatever reason, they did not. So we decide to wait and watch. I cannot get out of the bed, even to go to the bathroom. But I know I'm being taken great care of. And they were able to get blood for me about 8 or 9 hours later. So they start hanging bags of blood, and I'm being transfused, but I can see how quickly we are going through it. And I am still in so much pain. I'm trying to just visualize a positive outcome. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I hope this was gallbladder, something non-essential, but why am I losing this much blood? Because my abdomen's continuing to distend. So this went on for about 3 days. I'm being very well attended to. I trust my doctor. I'd been through a lot with him, not only the delivery with the first child, but the infertility. I'm very happy with the hospital. I knew the hospital well because I'd had 2 surgeries there for the ectopic pregnancies. So I know I'm in great hands. But by the 3rd day, the physician, my doctor, lets me know, Wendy, you're officially bleeding out. You probably have a good sense you are bleeding out at this point, meaning we can't get enough blood transfused quickly enough. You're losing it more quickly than we can transfuse it. And I already knew that was true, because it was so hard to focus, to concentrate. I could feel myself walking between worlds. And what concerned me the most was I didn't really care. That is so not my personality. I have always been just such a go-getter and so enthusiastic about many things. So to feel like that really, really concerned me. I just wanted to be out of pain. I just wanted to not be so scared anymore with what was going to happen to me and to the baby. So when the doctor lets me know that, I agreed to have surgery. The next morning, it was going to be, he was going to be the surgeon as well as one of his partners. So I knew I was in great hands. There was some discussion of, did I need to be transferred downtown? And we agreed, no, not necessary. We're going to do the surgery right in my community hospital. My community hospital, again, my great good fortune, was doing about 5,000 deliveries a year at that point, which I knew meant there was a lot of, GYN complications, OB complications. That meant there was that full infrastructure in place for me with this medical emergency that I was having. So we agreed I was going to stay right where I was. And so we've agreed to the surgery. It's late in the day. I'm alone in my room. I've just had dinner, and I'm just trying to relax because I am feeling some relief from the decision's been made. I am going to have surgery. And the minute I try and visualize the best possible outcome, I pop right out of my body. And I remember leaving my body. I remember looking back over my shoulder and seeing myself in the bed and thinking, oh my gosh, she looks terrible. She is a hot mess. She's whiter than the sheets. Clearly, she's lost so much blood, and her hair is she looks like a crazy woman. 3 days in bed. We haven't exactly been focusing on doing my hair during this time period. So what happens is I'm looking and thinking, why am I referring to myself in the third person? And I knew immediately, well, I'm in pure soul form. I feel fantastic. I feel great. I'm so glad to be out of that body because there's just so much pain and so much fear in it. I'm so glad. And she's just fine. She's going to be fine. I was pretty blasé about that temporary body. My soul was, my higher self was. And I'm thinking, she's fine. I'm much more focused on in my pure soul form. I'm much more focused on the light above me because I can see all this light up above from the hospital room ceiling, and I can just see this stream, this shaft of light, and it is magnetic. That is exactly where I'm going. I want to go there. I want to go up and up and up. I want to explore that. I want to go on back home. So I'm like, she's fine in the bed. I'm leaving. I'm going up to the light. It's exactly what I did. So I went up very quickly, very easily, feeling better and better, more and more like myself. Like I said, no more worry, no more pain, no more fear, going up and up. And I popped right out of the hospital, and it's like getting the Google Earth view, and I could see how beautiful everything was below me. But it's just a very casual, like, look over my shoulder because I'm focused on going up to the light and up higher and higher, feeling better and better, more and more energy, more like myself. But I reached a certain point where it was like I just ran out of gas. I didn't have enough energy to go home. And I remember thinking, oh, please don't make me walk through one of those long tunnels. I don't think I'll make it. And the minute I had that thought, this gorgeous escalator just drops in, so much light coming off it. It's the cleanest, most pristine escalator you've ever seen. No one else is on it. I know it's my ride home. I know it's just for me. So I plop onto that escalator, and in getting on that up escalator, I realized what my body form was at that point. And I knew I was supposed to be like a beach ball, just this orb, this just big, lively orb of energy and pure soul form with like a little lightning storm in it. And instead, I'm like hanging over the escalator handrail like a deflated pancake. I'm not not even resembling what I should be resembling. So I'm so grateful for this ride up and up and up. Can't tell you how long I was there. It felt like an instant, and it felt like I could ride forever. It's just, time is just different on the other side. It's a timeless, spaceless place in many ways. So I get to the top of the escalator ride, and my soul group is there. My soul family is there, as well as the same angels that were in my bathroom. I could see them further back behind my soul group. Because the angels were larger and just more light radiating off them, and I recognized them. But I have this amazing reunion with everyone. So as I get to the top of the stairs, they give me this big group hug. I could have stayed there forever. It just, to feel that unconditional love, it's life-changing. And I realized, my gosh, we've got to be able to give this to ourselves and fully accept and love and respect ourselves. And many of us are not doing that very well or very easily in human form. And we just need to be able to feel that and to give it to ourselves so that we give it to others too. So I'm getting this massive group hug. They're keeping me right at the top of the escalator where I arrived, and the same male angel who I now recognize immediately now that I'm home, it's Archangel Michael. So he says to me, "Welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You made it. You've done nothing wrong. You're welcome to stay. But you're going to need to decide quickly, because if you want to go back, you're going to need to go quickly." And I did flash back and think, oh yeah, that body in the bed is not doing well in the hospital bed, and obviously cannot be without me as the soul. So Archangel Michael continues. He says, "I can tell you three things to help you make your decision, because it is your decision. Number one, if you go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow. You will regain your health fully." This is huge to know that. I'm so grateful. Number two, your baby will be born healthy. This means the world to me, because again, I'm only 10 weeks pregnant. There's 30 more weeks to go. And I've had this major experience. I've had morphine. I've had blood transfusions. This is not exactly recommended by the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. This is not what anyone wants to be going on during their first trimester in particular. So to hear that, this was huge. Number three was the kicker. And number three was, if you choose to go back, your life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not on your life path. You are not living your purpose. I am so chagrined to hear this. I am horrified. I'm embarrassed. And so I look at him and say, "Oh my goodness, that's terrible. I'm so sorry. Please tell me, what do I need to be doing? What is my purpose? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? I want to live my purpose." And he just gently shakes his head. So Archangel Michael's not going to tell me anything further. And I can just feel like my heart plummet. My energy just plummets, because when you hear number one and number two, oh, of course, you want to go back, but now you've got number three. It's like, oh my gosh, how do I weigh this out? And so I look around at the rest of the group thinking, oh, come on, there's got to be a chatty Cathy somewhere in the group. Someone else is going to give me some information, because this is so important to know your purpose and feel that you can live your purpose. But no one else will tell me anything either. So my energy starts to plummet further. And at that point, the group realized I'm just taking this too hard. So they start being really silly. And they start putting like duct tape over their mouths and just like being really silly, and like locking their mouth with a key and like throwing the key away, but like in a really flamboyant, uplifting, fun way. And I feel myself just kind of relaxing. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're not supposed to tell me. I'm going to figure it out on my own. I'm meant to figure this out on my own. So I feel buoyed by that, by just the silliness and the camaraderie of this soul family, this soul group. And one of the things I recognized when I got home was I immediately saw all four grandparents. And that was amazing to me, because I knew my mom's parents, I knew my maternal grandparents very well. I'd been very close with them. We'd actually lived with them for a couple of years. But I also had my dad's parents there. So to see my paternal grandparents and right away to recognize them and just feel that love and that history from and with them was a big deal, because my dad's parents died before I was born. They died when he was 6 and 17. So I never met them, but I just realized, that history, and also that you just can recognize and sort out who's who, because the energy signature, because everyone looked exactly the same, like those big, amazing beach ball lightning storms like I described. So, but you know exactly who they are. I also recognized one of my best friends was there. And that was astonishing to me too, because she's alive. But to recognize her higher self energy up there with the light, and that made me realize this is how we connect with people. We never miss people when we go home, regardless of who's, quote, died and who's incarnated. There's that portion of our higher self energy is always at home. So we can always have the beautiful reunions, and we're never going to miss each other. So those were all really important things for me to know and remember because I had forgotten those things. So it just was giving me a lot of information and a lot of relief. So at that point, Archangel Michael asks me, "What do you want to do?" And the minute he asked me that question, all I could see was our toddler's face. I could see our oldest daughter, Tara's face. She was adorable, just this brown curly hair, these big green eyes. So I wasn't just seeing Tara's face, normal size, when Michael asked me that question. I was seeing it like IMAX version, like the 70-foot screen, and it just filled my world. So it was an easy decision. And what I said to him was, I'm ready to go back. I'm going to figure out my purpose. I want to be a mother to these children because I'm going to regain my health. I've got my beautiful little daughter, and I'm going to have another healthy baby. So that was the decision. So the minute I say that to him, everyone gives me another big group hug. And that time I caught on. It wasn't just the unconditional love, not that that wouldn't be enough, but they were downloading energy to me because, again, I was just flatter than a pancake from having been bleeding out for days. So I get this marvelous infusion of energy from everyone, and they just put me back on the escalator. And I'm like looking over my shoulder, looking back up at the light, no regrets, just feeling honored that I got to have this experience and feeling honored that I was given such a respectful decision whether to go or to stay. So I went back down the escalator, and everyone's cheerleading for me. You can do it. We'll be with you. And just getting that beautiful cheerleading for me. So I go back down the escalator. I just float back down into the hospital room, just pop down through the ceiling the same way I went out. And I just easily pop down back into my body. And then I did kind of like land and go, oh, my goodness. Why? And I remember thinking, why is she so small? I just felt like a little bit of I don't know what the right word is, like dissatisfaction, or like having to adjust again to such a small human body. Because when you're up with the light and you're in your pure soul form, you're just so much bigger and freer. So I did feel the confinement of the human body, and I did feel that pain again. But now I know how things are going to turn out. I've been given this beautiful gift of this assistance of what happened in these two near-death experiences that were just a couple days apart in this pivotal week in my life in August of 97. So just that portal, that light just goes away. I'm back in my body. I do have a successful surgery the next morning. I was the first surgery of the day. And when the surgeon debriefed with me afterwards, what he told me was, they had done the surgery using imaging guidance so that they would not disturb the fetus. And he said it was just perfect because the fetus was tucked really low in the lower left part of my uterus. What they discovered had happened was the fundus had ruptured, which is an aorta at the top of my uterus. And that's why I had lost so much blood so quickly, because it was an aorta pumping out the blood. It was not my gallbladder or something else non-essential as we had hoped for. So it was my uterus, and it was an aorta. He estimated I had lost about 3/4 of my blood supply based on the amount of transfusions that they had to do. So I recover in the hospital for a couple days. I go on home and I'm on 6 weeks of bed rest. I am weaker than a kitten from this experience, and we were very fortunate. We had our wonderful nanny because she's taking care of me, as well as our daughter, and my husband's at work. I go back to work after the 6 weeks. I went part time for the first 2 weeks, and there it became hard to try and like adjust my worlds because my worldview was so different, but I didn't know who to talk to about the experience. It didn't really land with my husband very well. And I realized he was more uh, traumatized and frightened in some ways by the experience than I was, because he didn't get to have the benefit of what happened to me during the near death experiences. And just neither of us, I just couldn't language it. And the irony of not being able to find support, because of course, here I am living in Seattle, and there was Seattle IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, oldest chapter in the country. In fact, that is the oldest, I believe it's a 42-year-old support group for near-death experiencers, and I didn't know about it. I chose not to speak with hospital personnel. I'd been alone when I had the experience, and I thought, I just don't sense that there's going to be I don't sense there's going to be a good support for it there. So I didn't say anything to my doctor or any of the nurses, etc. So I'm just trying to integrate and trying to language and trying to sort through and live with this experience. Interestingly, I didn't speak about it for about 20 years. And now that I know more about near death experiences, that's pretty typical. People can take many, many years to integrate the experience because you just don't have language for what's happened on the other side. But over time, I sorted it out and did develop the language to be able to try and describe what happened to the best of my ability. So I'm back at work. And I work in a busy ambulatory surgery center. I'm working in a busy ophthalmology practice. I'm the marketing director for it. And coworkers, just so happy to see me back. So like passing in the hall quickly or, quick lunch break or whatever. And like, Wendy, we're so glad you're back. What happened? We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you're okay. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I just didn't, like I said, I just didn't have language for it. So I'm incorporating it the best I can. And I'm back at work for about 6 weeks. I had been in the job for about 3 years. I loved the job. I loved the people I worked with. Really, really great place to be back to. But big surprise, about 6 weeks after I'm back to work, it's now November of 1997. And I get called into my boss's office on a Friday afternoon. Don't think a thing about it. We have a great relationship. I figured he just wants to, chat about the upcoming weekend, or he wants to tell me something that he needs done in the next week. But I walk into his office, and the minute I walk in there, I can see and read his energy, and I can see human resources sitting there with a file, personnel file on the conference table, and I know exactly what this is. I know this is the infamous Friday afternoon layoff. So I get laid off from the job that I love. I immediately remember what Archangel Michael had said to me: your life is going to get very challenging very quickly because you're not on your path. So I lose my job while I'm pregnant. And we really counted on that income. This was a big deal to our family because we had purchased a new home not too long ago because of the expanding family. We'd purchased a minivan. So all that was based on two incomes. And also, I carried the health insurance for the family. So to suddenly have no health insurance for us, this is a big deal because I'm pregnant, and how am I going to deliver with no health insurance? So yes, things did get challenging quickly. So I my poor employer, they're just distraught too, and trying to do everything they can. We'll give you great references. What do you need? Of course, go ahead, file for unemployment, Wendy. What do you need? How can we help you job search? How can we help you move into the next position? So it's just done as well as it can be. But facts are facts, and I have no job, and we have no health insurance for the family. So I go home and just take the weekend to try and get my head straight. And on Monday, I do file for unemployment insurance, and I do qualify for that pretty quickly. But a week later to the day, 1 week later on Friday, my husband is several hours late coming home from work and has not called me. So to the point where I'm worried because it's about 8 o'clock at night, and he walks in the door. And again, just that energy. He looks like the weight of the world is on his shoulders. So I run over to him and he says, you need to sit down. I need to tell you something really difficult. So I sit down, I'm looking at him, I'm like, are you okay? What's going on? What's happening? And he shares with me that his company has gone belly up very quickly. He was one of 5 owners of a very successful small software company. They had employed about 100 people, and they've now gone belly up. I did not see this coming at all. And what he said to me is, we've now gone to, there's just the 5 of us left. And we have a million things to do. So I'm now on payless paydays. So he then starts to explain what that means, what he's going to be doing, which boils down to he's going to be working very, very long hours to try and get everything sorted out. What do they do about their lease? Making sure all the employees get unemployment references, everything they need. And he's also going to be doing programming because he needs to help fulfill contracts that they've already been paid for. And he feels the need to just get that work done. So I can't hear anything past payless payday. My brain is locked on that. And after that, I was like, I didn't hear a word he said. So I'm like, okay, stop. Just what does payless payday mean? Those two words don't go together. And he explains again, he's going to be working probably 80-hour weeks and will not be getting paid for it. I am not happy. So what I'm most concerned about, I'm trying to be empathetic. It's one thing to be laid off from your job. It's another thing to lose your company. That's another level of just dismay and hurt to it. So I did try and have some empathy and compassion for my husband. It's like, I am so sorry. I know this has been a dream of yours for so long. I know you've worked so hard and done so many things right with this company, but obviously November 97. So we're moving into a real recession. We just didn't know it at the time, but we're going into that recession. And what's that joke? It's a recession when your neighbor's out of work, and it's a depression when you're the one out of work. So true. And we've got both of us out of work and no insurance once again. So I did say to my husband at that point, it's okay. Just take the weekend. We're going to figure it out. Get your feet on the ground. Take some time to mourn. And on Monday, file for unemployment. And let's get that going at least. And then he gives me another surprise and says, Wendy, there's no unemployment for me. I'm self-employed. I don't qualify for unemployment insurance. I didn't know that because I'd never been self-employed. So we're literally down to just my unemployment. So things continue to progress and are very, very difficult, both with my health. I'm still recovering. The stress level in the household is just through the charts. And I did keep thinking of what the angel had told me. So we're doing our best to cut expenses, to just stretch every little dollar as far as we can from my severance, et cetera. But things are really pretty dire. And we thankfully, we were not able to get more credit. We were not able to get loans because neither one of us is working. We weren't able to work out anything with our mortgage lender or with the lender for our cars. Thankfully, we were saved by what I lovingly call Bank of Mom. And my mother stepped to the plate, which was a sacrifice for her to do. And I so appreciate she just made up the shortfall every month. The urgent bills that we could not pay, she paid them for us, and she loaned us the money. And that went on from November until March. And in March, everything changed. And our baby was born on March 13th. And another important thing happened along the way where I was able again to hear Archangel Michael clear as day. I was at the pediatrician's office and I'm trying to keep Tara busy and happy. You've got the toddlers just going crazy all over the waiting room, and you're just hoping your name's going to be called soon. And while I'm waiting, I hear clear as day, I hear Archangel Michael say, "Look, look." And I look over, I'm like, "Are all the kids okay? What's going on?" And I look over and I can see there's a lamp and there's this little side table in the corner of the room. And I could see the lamp just really light up. And there was a brochure in front of it. So I realized he meant for me to go over and grab that brochure. So I did. And I stuffed the brochure in the diaper bag to read it home. And when I did, I was so thrilled. What it was a program called WIC, Women, Infant, and Children. And what it meant was I was able to qualify for health insurance for myself that would cover the delivery, and that would also cover health insurance for the new baby to get us started and for our daughter. So at least three of us out of the four were going to be covered. And it also provided some healthy food. So basically, it was like a form of food stamps. And we hadn't been able to qualify for any other assistance because we owned a home, which we were on the edge of losing, and we had two vehicles also on the edge of losing. So there just hadn't been any assistance for us. So between WIC and between my mother kindly loaning us the money, we made it through until the delivery. Everything changed the weekend of March 13th. I'd love to see our astrology from that time period, because I think some things really shifted for both my husband and I. And so our baby is born healthy on Friday, March 13th, at the same hospital where I delivered our older daughter and where I'd had the near-death experiences. And that's on a Friday. And then on Monday, my husband goes back to work. So he's back into full-time employment. They were able to get their software company purchased by another company. So everything is starting to get back to normal for us, with a very important exception. I was approved for a very short stay delivery. I was in the hospital less than 24 hours. It was called a drive-through delivery in 1998, March of 1998. And so I'm home. I am like still discombobulated from such a quick birth, quick hospital stay. I'm just feeling so much relief, because everyone feels relief to be like holding your healthy child, and to be home, and just this, magical moment, particularly for me, who'd been through something so challenging with the near-death experience while pregnant, because it had been a high-risk pregnancy the whole rest of the way, because there was concerns, was that fundus repair, was that going to hold, or as the uterus is growing and growing, and that huge growth and pressure, was it going to rupture again? So it was not an easy pregnancy to go through. So very glad to have gotten through that health-wise for both of us. So I'm home the next morning after the delivery. I'm alone. I'm nursing the baby, and Archangel Michael comes in. I see the light again, and he just says, as cool as a cucumber, "Your contract with your husband is complete." I almost dropped the baby. I am not happy. This is not my finer moment. I am now practically shouting and arguing with an archangel. What the heck do you mean my contract with my husband is complete? We just had a baby. What are you talking about? Our marriage is over. Is that what you're saying to me? Our marriage is over? Our contract, our soul contract to be together, is complete? And Archangel Michael just nodded. and just left. That was it. It was like, wow, way to deliver the news. So, but he'd said what he needed to say, and so I don't know how to share this with my husband. He doesn't have the belief system. I hardly have the belief system to incorporate these experiences that are happening. So I just do my best to just double down, to just be peaceful and loving. But something has shifted and changed in me forever when I know it's done. And I'm sure my husband could sense that at some level, and that's not fun or easy for him either. So we did divorce. We divorced as peacefully and kindly and with as much love and compassion as we could. I think we did an admirable job of it. We divorced when our youngest was entering first grade. So I chose that as the best time to do it because they were both going to be in school full time. And something else wonderful did happen as a result of that, and my mother chose to relocate. She was retired. I'm the only child. It's the only grandchildren, and she chose to relocate from Boston, where she lived, where my former husband and I had moved from out to Seattle, and she chose to move out to Seattle to join us. And what she said was really important. She said, "I'm here to be team grandmom. So Wendy, if you need help with the kids when it's your turn," because we went to full 50-50 shared custody, and our daughters went back and forth between the two homes. And so she would help me if I needed help, if I got caught at work late and couldn't pick up the kids on time, or couldn't do whatever. She would help fill that gap. She did the same for my former husband. So she was just there for the family. She was there for the kids. She didn't play favorites. And my mother and I built a duplex together, and we lived next door to each other. So that was just a big deal. It was really wonderful to have that family home. And my former husband and I lived close enough to each other that we could get the kids back and forth pretty darn well, pretty efficiently. So that's how we raised our daughters, who are now 25 and 27. The other very important things that came up along the way, when I was newly divorced, I didn't have any interest in a new relationship. I just wasn't even considering dating, let alone getting serious with anyone or marrying. It just was not on my radar. Just wanted to focus on those two little girls, needed to focus on my career, and my mom and I wanted to focus on getting our duplex built, which became pretty involved. It actually became a 4-year process. So I was focusing on lots of other things. But by the time 6 more years roll by and my daughters are 12 and 14, at that point, life was going really well again. Everybody'd settled into, the new norm, and for my youngest, we'd been divorced as long as we'd been married, so it just, everything flowed pretty darn well. So at that point, all of a sudden, I just really felt drawn to, oh my gosh, it's time to meet a great guy. And it was also starting to wake up spiritually, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't recognize what was going on. I had this incredible insomnia. I was literally waking up spiritually. And I'd always been just a great sleeper. So that was very different. And just other things were going on too. I was starting to become more psychically aware, but again, I didn't really understand what the experiences were at that time, until I asked younger girlfriends, "Okay, so I'm ready to meet a great guy. How do you do that? Like, I'm not meeting anybody at church. There just doesn't seem to be anybody in my circle. I'm not like meeting through a friend of a friend. I'm not meeting through activities that I do." And I was super, super busy. Full-time working mom, and just the two kids, and commuting, and animals, and mom next door, and your house and yard. There's a lot going on. So I asked younger girlfriends who are actively dating. I said, "How'd you meet your great guy?" And I just asked a couple girlfriends, and they said, "Oh, Wendy, you just need to go on Match.com." And my response was, "Match. What?" I had like no idea what they were talking about because I had not dated in 25 years. So this was new that online dating had come up. So some girlfriends helped me put together a profile, and I do that. And the minute I changed the radius, because you would put in a radius on Match of how far apart you wanted to meet someone who lived within X distance of your home, your work, whatever. And the minute I put in 10 miles, this profile came up. And I'm looking at it. I cannot look away from the computer screen. I'd been dating for a couple months at that point. I'd not had this reaction before to anyone. And I'm reading the profile. And even though it was very unusual, nothing trite or predictable about it, it's like I was two lines ahead in it. And I knew exactly what this man was going to say and how he was going to say it. I'm like, what is going on? I know this man. I know him. I know him. So, the very last sentence in his Match profile was, any woman on a spiritual journey, particularly a woman interested in an LBL, we have to meet. This is not what you typically read in a dating profile. So I'm immediately Googling LBL. I'm like, LBL, LBL. What is an LBL? And I wanted to make sure it wasn't some weird drug reference or something I didn't want to get involved with. So I'm Googling and checking, and I find Life Between Lives, which is a 4-hour spiritual regression created by Dr. Michael Newton, who was a psychologist in California who'd written the best-selling Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls, these beautiful, amazing books that I had never read, had never heard of, just were not on my radar. And he had created, he had been doing past life regressions to his surprise, because he had not wanted to go there. He thought those were just funky and weird and out there. But when a patient spontaneously went into a past life and got a powerful healing that he'd not been able to accomplish with them in over a year of traditional talk therapy, he paid attention to it, and then did start doing past life regressions. So he then wrote these amazing books after he had retired, because he was concerned he would be drummed out of his profession. And he kept meticulous notes, and just had done all this wonderful documentation. So he created a longitudinal study of over 7,000 patients and what happened in their past life regressions and in their Life Between Lives sessions. So the minute I'm finding Life Between Lives, I'm finding these books, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this is for me. I can't wait to read this book. So I order it from the library. Again, this is back in the day before, you get it Kindle, instant gratification, and I would have been reading it within 3 seconds. But I have to wait about 10 days for it to get in from the library and to be able to go pick it up. And so immediately when I'm reading this in this Match profile, I write to this gentleman, and I told him the truth. I said, I don't consider myself on a spiritual path, but there's something about your profile. I know you. And there's something compelling in what you've communicated to me. Are you talking about Life Between Lives, Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls? Because I wanted to make sure I had the right reference from his acronym. And he wrote back to me very quickly and said, yes, have you been for any of these sessions? Do you know what I'm talking about? And I said, no, but I've ordered the book. I can't wait to read the book. And when do you want to meet? So we get on the phone, we start emailing. We're still trying to figure out how we know each other, but we can't figure it out. And it took us about 3 weeks to meet, which I think was purposeful, because it took us that long to sync schedules to meet for lunch. And I think that was purposeful, because that gave me time to get Journey of Souls and to read it. And I was just in tears, because that book, it just explained so much. There was just such deep truth into me. It really was splitting me open, like the hard nut that takes the chisel to it, the nutcracker. Because the NDE had started to open my energy, but I hadn't known how to land it. I hadn't known what to do with it. And Journey of Souls was just helping me put it together. So I do meet this gentleman for lunch. I get to the restaurant first. I'm just sitting in the foyer. I'm sitting in the entrance on the bench, just kind of looking toward the door, waiting for him to arrive. The minute he walked in, it was like there was an earthquake. I literally felt like the earth was moving, and I could hear my guide saying, "Nothing will ever be the same." And I could just feel myself opening and opening and opening. And he walked over to me, and I was gobsmacked. I couldn't move. I couldn't stand up. And he dropped down on his knees in front of me because he could see I just couldn't stand up. And he was looking right in my face, saying, "I know you. I know you. I know you. Let's figure out what's going on." And he helped me up by my elbow. And then it was kind of like the spell was broken. I'm like, "Okay, Wendy, act normal." Walk into the restaurant and just have lunch and have a conversation and figure this out. We were there for 3 hours. We could not stop talking. It was just the best communication. It was this feeling of wanting to catch up. Well, now, why would you want to catch up with a stranger you've never met before? That is just the hallmark of a soulmate in so many ways. This is someone you have known before. And that is what we realized a couple of hours into this conversation was we knew each other from past lives, and we just had some real work to do, and it just felt so amazing and so exciting and so thrilling because I knew I had met someone that I was meant to have a really, really important relationship with and love affair with. And I could just see it. I could just see it all laid out because I was starting to be able to understand soul contracts, those agreements you make with other souls before you come onto earth. Just like over time, I was able to understand what my soul contract was with my former husband. And that soul contract was to have a long term marriage together in which we would have beautiful children together, children plural. I could see it underlined. So that's why the minute the second baby is born, I hear your contract with your husband is complete. And that marriage was for us to both really grow, and then we grew through the divorce, we grew through the co-parenting too, of just being a different type of family, and we didn't live in the same homes, but still there was a lot of cohesion, and we both were there for both our daughters. So, but back to meeting the new soulmate 6 years after the divorce. So I can just see this future, and I'm just stunned because I'd not had those abilities before, and I know he's seeing some of it too. So we both neither one of us want to leave, but it's a weekday. We've both got to get back to work. We've been there for 3 hours. So we make arrangements for date 2 and when we're going to get together again. And I would just like walk out of there on cloud 9. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." So we just move forward into what's going to become what I would call a highest highs, lowest lows type of romance. And I am forever grateful for it. And I'm also grateful that it's complete because what we experienced and what we went through in that 13 months where we were together and were doing our best to work things out as committed partners, we just had some differing values that we just couldn't reconcile. And I'll just call a spade a spade. I'm wired for monogamy, and he is not. And I'll just leave it at that. So we were in that romantic relationship for 13 months, and then he ended it. And when he did, I just felt like, what is the point of being here? I just don't understand, because I could see all the wonderful things we were meant to do together, and I know he did it carefully. I know he did it with as much kindness and regret too that it just wasn't working for him either. But we knew we were sorting out so many past lives together, but we couldn't sort them out quickly enough. And it was very interesting that he said to me, "I just can't trust you." And I know it's nothing to do with now. You're one of the most trustworthy, honest, open people I've ever met. I know it's past life stuff, but I can't do it. I can't trust you. And I don't know how to work on my own stuff quickly enough to resolve that. So we did end the relationship. And as I said, I was concerned that it felt too big to me, so big to me. It really felt like my life was over. And I'm like, this isn't logical. This doesn't make sense. This was a 13-month relationship. I've got so many great things in my life. I am not this one romance that ended because we can't work through an irreconcilable difference. Good to know that on the front end now, isn't it? So it just was so, so big. And some of the contracts that I found between us, the first contract we had was for him to wake me up spiritually. Perfect. So he did that. He did that beautifully, and that was wonderful. And he actually took me to my first past life regression. He found that therapist for me, and then took me to my first life between lives. Because back in the day, you had to drive to an office. We didn't have Zoom with the wonderful connectivity, and we didn't have practitioners who know how to do this sort of work. Like myself, I do all the work via Zoom. So I have clients in many, many countries in the world, which I love. And just get to enjoy the different cultures and them telling me what their worlds are like. So, but it was devastating. So the second contract that I had with that important soulmate that we were to discover took us 8 years to discover 21 shared lives together. That's a lot of energy to sort through. And what I discovered, our second soul contract after the contract to wake me up spiritually, which he certainly did in spades, was he was to break my heart repeatedly, which is what was going on when we were together romantically. And he was to break my heart repeatedly until I stood in my power fully without abusing it. That is a brilliant contract, but obviously no one wants or deserves to have their heart broken repeatedly. But what that did for me was it transmuted my karma, because I had a lot of karma from having been a heartbreaker and having been thoughtless or careless with partners' feelings and partners' love for me. So I got to be in that relationship with this amazing guy who was also incredibly, incredibly selfish and thoughtless, and also not kind and caring with me. So I got to experience that and transmute that karma. And what he did for me to encourage me to step into my power fully without abusing it, he became my best cheerleader over the next 8 years, because we ended the romantic relationship and I didn't want anything to do with him. I was too heartbroken, did not want to see him, speak to him. I was just done. But what happened was we started running into each other in the most ridiculous ways. And it's not like we lived next door to each other. It's not like we had so much of our lives enmeshed. We'd only dated for 13 months. We were both busy people with lots going on and lots of circles. But I mean, it was ridiculous how many times we would run into each other. If that ever happens to you, pay attention. It means you've got energy with this person to work through and to resolve. So what we did after this kept happening again and again, and I meditated and prayed on it. My guide said, come on, step it up. You've got work to do. You've still got lots to work through together. And you need to just reinvent this. You need to reinvent this relationship. So we did. Over time, we learned how to become spiritual seekers together. And that's what we did for the next 8 years. So that's when I started training. I started training as a Reiki master energy healer. I started training as a certified spiritual teacher. I became a past life regressionist because those sessions, when I went to my first past life regression sessions, they were so life-changing. In the very first one I went to, which again, he found the therapist for me and took me there because he'd had multiple past life regressions himself. So he was a great guide for who to go to, and just the kindness in driving me there. We weren't together anymore, but it didn't matter. That's not the point. It's not whether you're in a romantic relationship together or not. It's just, are you meant to do work together? And we absolutely were. So that very first 2 hour session, and when I went to that first session with a Michael Newton therapist, I had no spiritual practice, still very type A, controlling, stressed, super busy. Just had an MBA degree since I was 22 years old. And I went into that first session, and the therapist was honest with me. And she said, "You're not an ideal client." Because you don't know how to meditate. I don't know if you're going to be able to let go. I don't know if you're going to be able to relax. So this is an experiment, and you just have to be willing to see what's going to happen, and we're going to get what we're going to get. And I said, I understand. I'm so drawn to this. Let's just do the experiment. I get that. I totally get. I'm just plunking down the money, and I just need to have some faith and some trust. And the session was profound. What happened in that 2 hours in my very first session, it turned out that I'm actually an amazing therapeutic level trance client myself, which no one saw that one coming, and just was able to clean up scenes earlier in this lifetime, because that's often what happens in past life regression. You may not go straight into the past life or past lives because you're not limited to one. But I did also see two past lives, and they were very meaningful. And the therapist just did a beautiful job of helping me clean up all that energy. And at the end of that 2 hours, here I was about 50 years old at the time. I'd had anxiety my whole life. It hadn't been to the point where I needed to have medication for it, but it was a buzzkill. I was just living life small, just small and tight and super intense, and just not living life fully, not taking enough risks, not enjoying life enough. At the end of that 2 hours, I no longer had anxiety. And I was making so much sense of that NDE, and everything was just shifting and changing. So what I said to that Newton therapist, to her surprise, at the end of it was, I said, "Sign me up for the LBL. I'm ready to sign up for the Life Between Lives." And she just kind of looked at me. She's like, "Wendy, that's an advanced technique. Yes, you've had one great session, but you don't have any spiritual practice." I said, "I know, but I'm going to figure it out over the next year. I want to sign up for 1 year from now." And she's flipping through her calendar. It's back in the day of a paper calendar. She's like, "I don't think my book even goes that far." But we picked a date and scheduled it for a year out. And I had an incredible Life Between Lives. Again, my same former boyfriend drove me to it because he couldn't wait to have lunch afterwards and just debrief and talk it through, what the implications were for me and potentially for him. And they did actually involve him too. And I recorded both sessions. And when I transcribed the Life Between Lives, it was 65 pages of information for me. That was how much information came through. So it was phenomenal. And I then signed up and had a quantum healing hypnotherapy, a different type of past life regression, 6 months later, with a wonderful Dolores Cannon therapist. And that one was so meaningful. I had one again the next summer. I actually had two the next summer with her. And at that point, I knew I was meant to become a therapist. And she actually ended up introducing me to the person that I would first train with. So I first trained with a Canon therapist for past life regression. And I then had the good fortune to train with Dr. Brian Weiss, who wrote Many Lives, Many Masters. And I trained with him in person for a week at the Omega Institute in upstate New York. And that was amazing. And then I was able to train with one of Dr. Michael Newton's first degree students. So that's what just shifted and changed everything for me, and how I really got on my life path to be in service, to help others, because I was able to get my own energy straightened out and able to heal. I went through so many experiences of just being able to heal my own energy via the sessions I was having, by learning to meditate, to connect with my guides. I love helping people connect with their guides. I love helping people release their past life energy, because often we have past life energy that's impacting now and we don't realize it. But that's often the source of pain, chronic emotional pain, physical pain, anxiety, PTSD, panic attacks, depression. There's just stuck energy, feeling like you can't move, like you can't really live life fully. So those are just some of the things that come up, that can be shifted. So I'm happy to help people via. I offer 1 hour energy healings, clearings, and blessings on an ongoing basis as group Zoom calls. And you're welcome to go to my website, which is wendyrosewilliams.com. And there you can sign up for one of those. And I also do Q&A during those 1 hour sessions. Certainly, you're so welcome to do the paid sessions, which is a series of 3 sessions. It's in the comfort of your own home via Zoom, and I audio record them for you. It's a 2.5 hour session, and then a 1 hour session and a 1 hour session, typically scheduled 2 to 3 weeks apart, but can be as quick as once a week or as long as once a month. So just happy to answer any questions. How can I be of service? So, what did the angels look like? Oh, perfect question. They look huge. They are 8 to 9 feet tall. I could see both times like the shape of like the wings behind them. I could see they were floating off the ground in my bathroom. They didn't touch the floor. And that's how I could see how big the wings were, because the wings like curled behind them a little behind them. So much light coming from them, and just the love, just this love, love, love for us, so much compassion for us, and just so much wisdom. And I could also see that the angels worked together as this sort of collective. Yes, some of them can be recognized, as a certain archangel, or you might connect with a certain angel and have a specific name, and other people more relate to just angels as a collective energy. Great question. Okay, so let me read this next question here. After the NDE, did I experience heightened spiritual abilities? Yes, I did, but I didn't really know how to land them. I didn't really know what to do with them, because it was 1998 and I was a super busy working mother, and just so much going on. And no one in my family was to my knowledge, was psychic, was interested in spirituality, was interested in energy, and none of my friends were at that time. But things started to change, but not until I met that soulmate. And then it was amazing by that point how my friend circle had been changing, and people had been both falling away and also stepping forward as the new interests and abilities came on board. And I pretty quickly had the good fortune to develop a new tribe, and just to build a tribe, join various tribes who were spiritual seekers and who were interested in these sorts of things that had not been on my radar in my life, or in my marriage, or in my lifetime growing up, and for the first 50 years, really. So it was just such a surprise to meet this soulmate at the age of 49 with that contract to wake me up spiritually, and then have things just start to shift and just get into a very, very rapid gear. At this point, I'm consciously aware of about 150 of my past lives, which is just a high, high number. And it's not a numbers game. You might only need to have 1 or 2 or 3, maybe it's 6, maybe it's a dozen, not a contest. But I just had a lot of past life energy that I needed to heal, release, and also be uplifted by, because I was able to bring forward past life abilities. I'm not a writer now because I've never written before. I was a scribe. I used to copy the scrolls. Often there's like a pre-writer type of life like that. If you're meant to become a writer in this lifetime, often you've kept a diary. If you don't do now, you have before. You've been maybe written for a column. Maybe you've kept, a blog, whatever it might be. You've done some writing. You've done some reading. If you're meant to be a writer now, an artist, a photographer, just these abilities. A healer. These abilities, they just come and they grow, and we work on them in different lifetimes and just have different experiences with them. Have I experienced alternate Earth realities, meaning lives on other planets and other dimensions? Oh, heck yes. That was one of the things that made it pretty hard for me to be here in this time, in this place, because I'm what's called a hybrid soul, meaning I have experienced about 50%, about half of my lives on other planets and in other dimensions. So, if you remember what I said about coming back to my body after the second NDE and thinking, oh my God, why is she so small? It just annoyed me. I'm 5'2", and it just annoyed me to be back in this, pretty small body, because I just felt like, whoo, my energy's like so much bigger than that, so much bouncier than that, that it felt a little bit restrictive. And it's so funny because whenever I go to my energy chiropractor, and she would try and do something where she'd use a machine that would like be related. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I've got it like up there at like 5'7" for you." She's like, "I always think and I always forget you're little." And I was like, "Yeah, I feel like I'm about 5'7." It just it's just interesting. But yes, I remember lives on Venus. I remember lives on the purple planet, which astronomers have not discovered yet, but the purple planet, it's pretty similar to Venus, and it's helping send the violet flame. It's helping send love and compassion to Earth. That's the purpose of the purple planet. I remember lives on Mars. I did not enjoy those, but needed to balance up the Venus lives. I remember lots of lives on water planets. I so love and enjoy the water, and I tend to move water around me quite a bit. What I mean by that, I love to live near lakes, be at the ocean, streams, be by any sort of water. But I've also learned I have to ground my energy and be careful, because I do appear to have some ability to move water. So I'm the queen of the backed up sinks, the broken washing machines, the leaking dishwashers. So I have to watch and balance my four elements, because I think I'm so used to being on those water planets and just enjoying and moving water very freely. So for my home, I have to pay some good attention to that, and then just have some sense of humor when there's occasionally some leaks and some some problems with water. So, but yes, I remember lives in other dimensions too. I've had multiple healers talk about, and this may sound crazy, but you just got to own it. You just got to know yourself and just know what's true for you. I can remember lives as fairies. I can remember mermaid lives, merman lives. I can remember lives in other dimensions. Dragon, definitely have been a dragon. So just some interesting other experiences too. So so you've seen a freeway. Oh, this is an interesting comment. You've seen a freeway of orbs in your apartment once. What do you suppose was going on? It sounds like you were just tapping into another dimension and able to really know. Yes, there are freeways. There's freeways, there's portals, there's ley lines. Their energy can move in groups like that. Sometimes when I'm helping people in their past life regression healing sessions go on home, because we do experience that. We do go to the last day in a past life, and then we leave that body to feel that freedom and bring in more energy and pure soul form, bring in that wisdom and that energy. And often people will say to me, well, as I was growing up to the light and we got up further and further, and you were helping me and coaching me to do that, and my maybe their guides helping them, their higher self, and they'll say, oh my gosh, there were so many other orbs around me. I didn't realize it was going to be like a highway. I didn't realize it was going to be like a traffic I don't want to say traffic jam, but noticing lots of other movement like that. So yes, very cool. Any other questions? Any closing words? Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the lovely audience for tuning in and listening and bringing in some questions and comments. I very much appreciate it. My closing words would be, just be kind to yourself. Just learn to do your best to learn to love and accept yourself and be comfortable, and just be open to these different sorts of experiences, and just apply that compassion to other people too. Because even though you haven't necessarily had the experience, it doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean they're unintelligent. It doesn't mean they're crazy. Because it can be, I think, having that compassion, because when we're really waking up spiritually or really having some different experiences, people just need to be accepted and loved exactly as they are, without us trying to change them. So I think that would be my closing words, is just love and accept yourself. Like I described that moment of unconditional love when I got that group hug, and then that beautiful energy download when I went home in the second NDE. Know that that's available, and you can connect. You can connect with your higher self meaningfully. You can connect with your guides. And if you cannot figure out how to do it on your own, you absolutely can work with someone that can help you do that. And then I just makes it easy to not be judging others, because it's not our job. It's not our job. We're not walking in their shoes. We don't know what their experiences are. And if it just, totally doesn't land with you, that's fine. That's fine. So I think having that loving compassion both for ourselves and for others, and being able to release the fear and anxiety, I think that is crucial. And so many people are just really, really stuck in that place and just need some compassion. And the antidote to that fear and that anxiety, it's love. So it's just finding a way to open our hearts for ourselves, and to be compassionate to ourselves and with others around us. I think that peace, that brings in that peace as well as that joy. And I think of those as the heaven on earth energies. Gratitude also, just the peace, the love, the joy, those highest vibration energies. Whatever's meaningful for you, just know that you deserve that and can experience that, and you can be that for yourself and then create that for others. So thank you again for having me as your guest. I appreciate being here. Bye-bye now.